Good afternoon, U.S. history. Okay, I wanted to go through a really quick run through of when the Civil War breaks out. Okay, so war begins. Lincoln believed that he did not have the authority to force the states back to the Union after they seceded. He didn't think he had the power. Just kind of do what they wish. So when the problem occurs is the Confederate Army starts to seize Union military bases that are located within the Confederacy. So in the Confederacy's mind, it's, hey, we seceded. This is no longer your base. This is ours. The Union had a problem with that. So the first seizing of a base was Fort Sumter, and it was seized by Confederate forces on April 12th, 1861. Union troops had to surrender, and this marks the start of the Civil War. Here's a picture of Fort Sumter. I'm going to run through this really fast so we can get through all of it. So the North's advantage, the Union's goal was to preserve the Union. They wanted to keep all of the states together. They had factories that were able to transition to create wartime materials. They produced much more than the South's economy did. The North also had a developed railroad network so they could transport goods and soldiers as needed. The North was much more self-sufficient. Like they could make the materials that they needed. And they kind of thought that it was going to be an easy victory. So the South's advantage. The North had a smaller army. They were less committed to the fight. They just wanted to keep the Union a thing. The South, they sort of had a reason for the fight. Their hearts were more in it. The South had much better military generals, one of them being the Robert E. Lee. He was a great leader, and here's a picture of him. So they had different strategies while fighting. The South thought that they simply just had to outlast the North until they got tired of fighting and eventually just gave up. The North devised a plan to starve the South out of resources. So their plan was to just kind of not let any resources get to the South with blockades, and eventually the South would give up. Early on, the war was a stalemate. Both sides were even, but there was large casualties with newer and deadlier technology. Lincoln emancipated the slaves, meaning that he freed the slaves. Here's his proclamation. How does the war affect daily life? Northern factories had to step up to get the military materials produced. Northern troops were on the low, but Lincoln then enabled the draft. Almost all battles took place on Southern ground, meaning that their agriculture and their landscape was just destroyed. Confederacy resources were scarce. The Union plan was starting to work. The South tried to ease economic problems by printing off more money, which caused extreme inflation. Backfired. It did not work. Food shortages were common in the South, as well as food riots. So the Civil War comes to an end. 1864, General Sherman leads Union troops on a march of total war through the South to Atlanta, which basically means he just set fire to everything and destroyed as much as he could. Railroad tracks, fields, houses, whatever. He was destroying it all. His troops were. The Confederacy was completely starved of resources in 1865. And as a result, General Lee surrenders to the Union General Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. Some effects of it, the southern landscape was just in complete ruins, as well as the economy. And that is it for the really, really quick run through for the Civil War.